All the people throughout the scene have different types of hairstyles. Some have it moussed, some have it flowing, some have it tied back, some have it very short. They all have different types of hair. Now, creating those effects require different types of techniques. Like in this particular case, you see that the hair is flowing and it's going all over the place, nice and soft looking and so. And the same thing over here, for instance, right there. Nice, soft, flowing hair. But some people, like this person way back here, has it tied into a ponytail. There's one other person in the scene that has a ponytail, and that's myself right here. That's me right there. And you see I have a long ponytail with a lot of different ties. Now those ties will control the flow of the hair. It's not as free-flowing as, say, this one here. These are controlled by the ties. So you can see that it's being pulled tight to that first tie, and then it curves around, then it gets pulled tight again. There's a few little loose hairs and so on. And then at the end, they just kind of flow out. So here we have a little more control in how we're going to have to get the hair flowing to make it look right. So let's go in there and create a hair with some ponytails with more than one tie. All right, so right here on a blank screen, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little guide for myself so I know where the hair is going to flow. So in a new layer, I'm going to call it guide. And I'm just going to use a really bright red color just so it's easy to see. And I'm going to go in here and draw myself a little guide of where the head's going to be. The head is going to flow like this. And then it's going to have a tie right there with a little piece coming down like this. And then the end is going to just flow out right there. So there's my guide. That's good enough. Now that I have my guide, I'm going to create a layer behind this. And it's going to be the base of my hair. Now, so that we can see this clearly on the screen, I'm going to use some kind of light colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a person with graying hair. All right, so we're going to go in here, and for the base, we'll pick a nice medium gray like this. And that's the base. So right here, I'm going to get my brush a little bigger, and I'll make the edges soft. I'm just going to kind of draw in the area right here where my hair is going to be. This is the base now. This is just the bottom part of our hair. Right through here, create this little shape right through there like that. Let's make the brush a little smaller and just kind of fill these little spaces in there. And then down here, we just kind of throw in some tone. All right, so there, we got that. So now we don't need the guide anymore. So we've got the basic shape for our hair. We might want to even connect this a little bit right through there and right through there. All right, so now that we have that, we're now going to create the brush with the effects that we're going to need for the actual hair. So I'm going to go in here and pick a hard edge brush. I'm going to bring the size way down to 1. Now I'm working at 72 dpi here, so 1 is going to be fairly thin as I can possibly get it. If you're working at 300 dpi, a 1 pixel is going to be really fine. So I'm going to pick right now a darker tone. So let's go almost to black. And I'm going to create a layer on top of the base, which we'll call hair dark. Those are my dark tones. Then based on where these things are tied, I'm going to start to draw out my shapes. But first, I'm going to go in there and modify the brush a little further. I'm going to go into my brush to shape and bring the spacing down to 0 so that it's a solid line, just like that. Then I'm going to go into my transfer modes, where I got the opacity and the flow set to pen pressure. Now, a mouse does not have pen pressure, but a stylus does, which means that now the opacity and the flow are going to change based on my pressure. So when I draw a line now, you can see that the line is much thinner. And if I even press hard, you can see that it's disappearing at the ends and so on. So it starts to look more like real hair. Now that I have that, I make sure I'm in the right layer, hair dark, and I'll start to draw out all the little shapes that are going to be the hair flowing from that little end right there. So I just draw a bunch of these little shapes just flowing out. And I'm not going to be extremely careful because we're just demoing here and we just want to get the basic feel. And there we can see we're getting all these little hairs. Now here we got to curl them. So here we're going to just do some curls this way and do some curls this way. And in the middle, they're going to be kind of straight. So we'll draw a few more. And then down here, they're going to just flow out from that end and just kind of flow in different directions out like that. Okay, now that we have those established right through there, let's throw a few more in here and a few more up here just to fill it up nicely, just like that. So now that we have that, we're going to create another layer on top of that, and we'll call this one hair light. And here we're going to use white. And again, I'm going to start to draw a couple of strands right through here like this. And you can see that we're just following almost like the black ones before. And we're just coming out from those areas. And then through here, few going down this way, and a few straight in the middle, and then a few curves on the side. And then down here, they're just going to flow out from that bottom down there. So there you can see that we have all the little hairs going in all the directions that we need coming out from those edges. Then we need the little ties. So on a layer right on top of this, we're going to throw in the little ties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a nice dark gray. If you want colored ties, okay, let's say Valentine's Day ties or something. So we'll pick a nice red like that. And I got my brush. It's got those same settings. I'm going to make it a little bigger. So a nice size about like that. I'm going to go into my ties. I'm going to make sure I'm going to turn off that transfer modes. I want it to be nice solid lines. So now that I have that, in that layer for the ties, I'm going to just draw a couple of little ties going right across here like this. I give them a little separation to them. Why? Because you'll see in a second. So there we got a couple of little ties. We might want to do a second batch. So we'll create one behind here and say ties in back. Now, the reason for that is because I'm going to draw another one right through here and maybe one right in there and one coming out that way. All right, so they're a little thicker. I'm going to take those ties in back and I'm going to darken them just a little. So I've got a lot of different ways of darkening. I'm just going to use a simple one. I'm just going to go in there and say hue saturation. I'm going to say darken those in back. Punch up that saturation a little bit, just like that. So there we can see that now we have a little different tonality happening. I'm going to go to my ties. I'm going to say give them a little bevel and emboss. Bevel and emboss is going to start to make them look three-dimensional. Starts to give them that nice little tone in there, and they start to have a little more of a dimensional feeling, making them look like they're standing out there. I can go in there and copy that effect right over to the ties in back, so they have a little dimension as well. And there we see that we now have the little ties. We want to go in there and, you know what, I'm going to just pick up that color from there. And the ties in back, I'm just going to fill that area right in there. So there we go. So now it's nice and filled. Now going back to the hair base, I'm going to go in there and darken right in here. I take my midtones with my burn tool. I'm just going to darken right into that area right in there and right under here where the tie is, right through there and right in here and right under there. So you can see that I'm starting to get all those nice little dark tones looking like the little shadows are happening. So when we go back and look at the main piece where the time has been taken to do it right, you can see that there's the little tiny ties. You can see a little darkening in the areas. And when we get in real close, you can see all the little hairs coming right out from underneath the ties and a little darkening in the certain areas where it needs it. Little highlights in the other areas. The areas that are closer to us, that are exposed to light, are lighter. And the ones that are underneath are darker. And there you can see all the different little hairs following the flow based on the ties and then ending up in the loose fit down at the bottom.